We've all heard enough of everyone's best practices in software development, and today we're here with Mitchell Hashimoto to hear about his worst practice. So, Mitchell, please tell us more about yourself and what type of software you write.
So I am a software engineer. I co-founded a company called HashiCorp. Most people are aware of the tools HashiCorp makes, and that's the type of software that I generally write, which is, cloud-based, like dev tools, deployment tooling, infrastructure automation, things like that. I would say that for the past 10 years, that's what I've been writing. And then more recently, I've been, I'm off all those teams now. It's a big enough company, and I've been experimenting a lot more with, I would say, like lower level programming. So nothing that's directly applicable to HashiCorp. This is more of a free time sort of thing, but getting back to my, I was some sort of roots, I guess, of growing up and doing, C style stuff. So a little bit all over the place, but I would say the not a lot of web programming is, I would put it that way.
Got it. So, tell us, what is your worst practice?
So I think my worst practice is a little bit more modern. I don't think this would have been a worst practice maybe 10 years ago, but it raises eyebrows now when I tell people. But I don't use, I use Vim, but I don't use any sort of code intelligence, language server, autocomplete, anything. Like the only thing I use is auto format on save, and it took me like until 2 years ago to get there. Like I like my editors to do nothing, so that kind of freaks people out. And I've gotten a lot of people saying, oh, that's you're working so much slower than you could be, or how can you possibly work that way, or it's whatever. But that's just how it works.
If you have a library that you're trying to use, how do you look up, another function in the API? Like how do you find what you're
Yeah,
looking for?
my learning style is reading the reference manual, at least skimming it ahead of time. Maybe that's because I started programming 20, 30 years ago, but um, it's that. So in my mind, I sort of have a rough idea. Like I may not remember the exact arguments, the exact capitalization or wording, but like I'm like, oh yeah, there's a function like connect underscore whatever. When I was small, when I was young, I had a 2 hour a week computer time limit up until I was 18. And it was a week. And the two
Wow.
hours also, if I had to do homework, like type in Microsoft Word type of paper, it counted. So um, I would end up doing a lot of programming by either doing it on paper or doing it in my head. And like to the point where I was like, okay, when I get to the computer, I have to just get it out and run it. And it has to work because I don't have time to like go back and forth. And I think that practice just like got me really comfortable with this. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't need autocomplete.
I love that. That's amazing. When you have to do builds, so you save file, you get an auto format, great. Now you want to do an incremental build, assuming it's a compiled language or even interpreted, you want to
Sure.
run it again. What's your workflow for that?
Yeah, tab over to a shell. I don't use a shell in an editor. Well, I run Vim in my terminal, so it's mostly like switching over to another split or another tab or whatever, depending on the operating system on. And then I use the terminal as is. Yeah.
There's a lot of tools out there now for more advanced kind of completion, like autopilot and LLM based tools. Have you tried any of
Hmm.
those to compare?
That might be the only thing that brings me back into some of this stuff. I haven't like integrated it into my editor yet. I mean, I've tried it. I don't really feel like I have a need for it yet. I would say sometimes when I'm confused by a certain problem or there's something just really dumb that I know like is easy to solve, but I don't know how to do it off the top of my head, I'll just like pop into like a chat GPT style session and do it. Like recently I was doing some web programming stuff and I just forgot the JavaScript way to manipulate some data and modify the DOM. Basically, I was like, I know this is super easy, so I'm just
Right.
gonna ask it, and it dropped it out. And I don't just like copy and paste it, just but that like refreshes everything, and I copy and paste and edit. But that's pretty much it. But I think eventually, yeah, that's the one thing that I'll have to figure out because I do think it is helpful.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on and telling us about your worst practice.